Part 4. The Possessor. Chapter 9. The Possessor. He was the king of gods, leader of spirits, and he would become the chief enemy of the God of Israel, Lord of the clouds. He was the God of fertility. His worshippers prayed to him to make fertile the soil and cause their crops to grow. They called him Lord of Rain, Master of the waters, that caused the earth to bear fruit. He was the God who rode on the clouds, the Lord of storms. He was the one who hurled down bolts of lightning on the earth. If he prospered, the land prospered. If he languished, so did the people. He was a warrior. He would enter into battle with his fellow gods over and over again. In the end, though he would reign supreme over his pantheon, it was the role he played with regard to the nation of Israel for which he is most known and notorious, and it was that role that concerns us with regard to the mystery. The master, he was called Baal, chief of the Canaanite pantheon. His name can be translated as Lord, Owner, and Master. The Bible speaks of both Baal and the Baalim or the Baals. He was one and, at the same time, many. Nations, regions, and cities each had their own Baals. There was Baal Hadad, Baal Hermon, Baal Tamar, Baal Peor, and Baal Zephon, among many others. Even families had their own personal Baals, clay figurine idols of the omnipresent deity. The alternate God. It was not long after Israelites settled the promised land that they began turning away from God. Then the children of Israel did evil in the sight of the Lord, and served the Baals, and they forsook the Lord God of their fathers, who had brought them out of the land of Egypt. And they followed other gods from among the gods of the people, who were all around them, and they bowed down to them. Baal promised the Israelites fertility, fruitfulness, increase, gain, and prosperity. Thus, as they began cultivating the land, the temptation to invoke his powers proved more and more compelling. Many Israelites turned away from God to follow him. He was so prominent that when the Bible mentions his name, along with those of other foreign gods, he is almost always mentioned first. To the people of Israel, he was the head of the other gods, and was himself the quintessential other god. In the 9th century BC, the worship of Baal had made such inroads into Israel's culture and state that those who refused to join it were persecuted, hunted down, and killed. It was over the worship of Baal that the prophet Elijah rose up against the apostate king Ahab and his co-regent Jezebel. Years later, after a nation's destruction, the scriptures would cite Israel's worship of Baal essential among the reasons for the calamity. No other deity was so connected to Israel's falling away from God and its subsequent destruction as was Baal. Baal and Zeus. In later days, Baal, in his incarnation as Baal Shamin or Baal Shamin, was identified with the god Zeus, head of the Greek pantheon. An ancient Nabatean text says this: they regarded as God, the Lord of heaven, calling him Belsamen, which is the Phoenician language, Lord of Heaven, and in Greek Zeus. Syriac writers refer to Baal-Shamim as Zeus Olympios. Both gods appeared as idols standing in the same position, with arms lifted up and ready to hurl a thunderbolt to the earth. Zeus was presented as Zeus Belus and Jupiter as Jupiter Belus, which could be translated respectively as Zeus Baal and Jupiter Baal. And so when the gods were cast out of the Greco-Roman world, Baal-Shamim or Jupiter Belus was one of the exiled deities. The anti-god. To the nation of Israel, Baal was the embodiment of paganism and of all pagan gods. He was the epitome of all that was not God and all that warred against him. Baal was the other god, the substitute god, the instead of God. He was Israel's anti-god. He was the God that Israel turned to when they turned away from God. He was the God who separated Israel from its God, who drew it away, who made it forget the God of its foundation. So if Baal was the God of the turning away, the God of the falling, the apostasy God, what would happen if he returned to the modern world? What would happen if he came back to possess a nation, a civilization? What would happen if Baal came to America?